describing an underwater UFO as large as a football field, moving at hundreds of miles per hour underwater.
Have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself of non-human origin craft?
Yes, I personally interviewed those individuals.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Aliens exist and President Trump knows about it.
The United States and Israel have been in contact with a group of aliens for years.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology.
We are not all to be traced back to one blob of germplasm.
And the implant is finally removed.
There's no evidence how the object got inside the body.
Can you comment on the drones?
Our military knows where they took off from. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Good to see you guys. Welcome to the stream. So now, had and failed attempt with the stream right now, man. Life starts sometimes, gotta tell you. It ain't easy, but we're going to take a look today at Peter Thiel. The guy that you probably know. Many people still don't know about that guy though, which is, I find, kind of worrying. Because I feel like at this point, people should definitely know who Peter Thiel is, who he funded, or his fellow employees are funding as well still, you know, so he's a big player, and he's been in the game for a long time. And I mean, many countries are using Palantir to some extent. The US is the biggest operator, I would say, the biggest user of Palantir, of course. Well, in Europe as well, it is going to come 100%. I'm quite certain about that. And it is funny because I feel like we can watch the government basically, which is very, very far left at the moment, but it's gonna be Trump 2.0 with the AfD that maybe you heard about in Germany. Is kind of the, you could say, the Republican Party in a way, which are the far right ones in Germany, you know. And I feel like they're definitely gonna be replaced by the AfD at some point, and they are big supporters of Palantir. So it is interesting to watch new parties coming into the game, especially when they're connected and big supporters of things like Palantir, guys like Peter Thiel. We're gonna start with a documentary that is done by Fern. I gotta say, I never watched that channel before, to be honest, but I think it's a very good video. It seems to be well produced. And afterwards, we're gonna take a look at Ian Carroll. And Ian Carroll got like much research. He's connected to Candace Owens, so they're like friends, you know, and at some point he was also making videos on Candace channels, on Candace Owens' channel for some time. So I haven't watched it. It's a deep dive on the support of JD Vance, actually, how he got, which is also quite an interesting topic, I gotta say, if you want to get into the details. So this is roughly what we're going to take a look at. And I would say, without further ado, we're going to start with the documentary, How Peter Thiel is Destroying Democracy. All right? So hope you're all ready. And in case you didn't, and if you're new to the channel, I very much welcome you to the channel and to the family, man. Thanks for being around, and I really appreciate your support, man. And, you know, if you enjoy the video and want to see more content like this, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. This will mean a ton to me, bro. So thank you for your support, or sister. And let's continue with the video.
You would prefer the human race.
Or let's start with the video. I'm sorry, I gotta rewind it. Let's go.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
Yes?
I don't know. I would...
This is Peter Thiel.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
Should
in this.
the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But
he's been a major player in Silicon Valley for a long, long time.
I'm Peter Thiel. I build companies and I support people who are building new things, from social networks to rocket ships.
You might know him as the multi-billionaire who co-founded PayPal and Palantir, as Facebook's first outside investor, the guy who funds out their projects like floating countries, private space travel, and the quest for immortality. Peter Thiel
I just gotta pause for a second because, oh my god, this is actually the guy from a German YouTube channel, because I definitely remember his voice. They're called Simplissimus. I didn't know that actually. They're called Simplissimus. And well, their dives on certain people are, let's say, good, but they're pretty, you could say, still kind of mainstream, and they're not really telling the whole story, right? So we're gonna, you know, oh my goodness. We gotta consider this and keep it in mind as we're watching it. They're like scratching on the surface, but anyways, I'm interested. I gotta say, they always have like high quality productions, which is nice. So it's definitely gonna be interesting still. So let's see. Just wanted to let you know. Interesting.
Rejects the idea that death is inevitable. He wants to transform humanity.
Transhumanism was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body.
But he also wants to change something else. For decades, Thiel has schemed from the shadows to reshape American politics.
Tonight, I urge all of my fellow Americans to stand up and vote for Donald Trump.
He bankrolled Trump's first campaign. He turbocharged J.D. Vance's career. Thiel openly questions the democratic system, and he's declared that to him, freedom is incompatible with democracy. His vision of an ideal society sounds more like an oligarchy, a country ruled by a few powerful rich people, or even just one. Today, his influence is rapidly expanding across the world. From the beginning of his career, he's been building tools to rewire how power works. Palantir, his brainchild, enables intelligence agencies and militaries to anticipate their enemy's next move before it's made. Maybe even your next move too. None of this happened by accident. Peter Thiel plays the long game. He's patiently planned his moves for decades, always several steps ahead. So what does Peter Thiel actually want? What's his problem with democracy? And is there an end game?
We just started with it, bro. We're right at the beginning. I swear, I feel like from his point of view, we're just starting, pretty much. But yeah, it's well produced. It's funny that they have an English channel as well, though. No, didn't know that.
This video is largely based on the research collected in The Contrarian, Peter Thiel and Silicon Valley's Pursuit of Power by Max Chafkin. You'll find a link in the description. New York City, 2010. A TV show has set up a night for Peter Thiel to meet Garry Kasparov, one of the greatest chess players of all time. Thiel and Kasparov have met before and get along well. They like chatting about politics, technology, and of course, chess. Peter Thiel's a die-hard chess fan. In fact, he's a national chess master. He's admired the Grandmaster Kasparov since he was a teenager. And the respect is mutual. Kasparov admires Thiel's intelligence and business sense.
He's one of the probably most successful entrepreneurs of his generation. He's very aggressively investing. He looks for the future.
Thiel's legendary status in business is hard to overstate. His companies have created technologies that have changed the course of the modern world, and his influence helped define tech, an industry that has produced millions of jobs and trillions of dollars of wealth. That night, Kasparov and Thiel hit up a chess club. Thiel plays a game of speed chess with the owner and wins.
I'm totally embarrassed.
Yes. I'm embarrassed as well.
Kasparov suggests his chess skills are probably why Thiel's such a successful businessman, and why he tends to hire chess players for his companies.
That's why he's hiring chess players, Peter just told me the story that one day had the IPO for PayPal. So he did a Simon for 10 employees of PayPal.
And sure, Thiel is probably onto something. Chess skills transfer well into the world of business. It's a game of strategy, where it pays off to think several moves ahead. Skills that don't hurt in politics either. Sometime after this evening, Kasparov and Thiel drift apart. Maybe the two don't have that much in common after all. It's not just that the Russian Kasparov is a way better chess player. He's also one of the world's most prominent pro-democracy activists. He's a major thorn in Putin's side, tirelessly campaigning for a freer Russia.
So I'm fighting to restore democracy in my country. Trump's potential victory could threaten not only democracy in this country, but democracy worldwide.
And Peter Thiel? Well, kind of the opposite trajectory. Critics warn he's emerging as a major threat to American democracy. Billionaires like Thiel reshaping politics is terrifying. Connecting to airport Wi-Fi ranks way lower on the scale. But having your data floating around unprotected online is a threat you can actually be anything if you avoid malware or back guarantees. Peter Thiel is around 8 years old when his family arrives in Swakopmund, a former German colony on Namibia's coast. He moved here with his parents and brother after some years in Ohio. During the 1970s, the city is occupied by apartheid South Africa. At the time, it's a town clinging to its German roots, where Hitler's birthday is still celebrated and the Nazi salute is a casual greeting for some.
So
Peter's father, Klaus, takes an engineering job at a uranium mine just outside town. The mine is controversial and shrouded in secrecy. According to international law, South Africa isn't allowed to mine here, but they go ahead anyway. Extracting Namibia's uranium is part of South Africa's nuclear weapon.
I mean, who cares, right? Just do it. Don't ask too many questions, bro. Just gonna mine that stuff.
Program. The regime is secretly developing bombs to defend against a possible Soviet attack and to protect the apartheid way of life. According to a former British activist group, black laborers have worked at the mine under dangerous conditions. Meanwhile, white families like the Thiels enjoy a privileged life. Brand new medical facilities, country club memberships, kids in private school. Young Peter is reportedly first put in a whites-only school in Johannesburg, then in a German-language school in Swakopmund, where the curriculum pushes a Christian nationalist worldview and even paints white South Africans as the real victims of the region. This is where Peter Thiel spends formative years. It's a world where his family benefits from a white supremacist regime, where his father actively advances its military interests. A world where the founding belief is that some people are meant to rule, and the majority must serve. When Peter's 10, he and his family return to the US. Peter's developing into a classic nerd. He loves sci-fi and fantasy, especially Lord of the Rings. He's top of the class and becomes one of the country's top chess players under the age of 13. It's not cool to be a nerd in the 70s and 80s, so Peter is reportedly bullied on the regular. But he knows he's smart and going places. His chessboard has a sticker that says "Born to Win." Peter wants the best for himself, so he studies hard to get into the top university. At the time, Stanford is ranked #1 in the US. When he makes it there in 1985, Stanford's a huge letdown. Peter expects fellow overachievers, but finds a party scene instead. He'd rather hit the books than the bong, and he's once again teased for being a nerd.
Dude. Dude, how can you have the face of like a 40-year-old guy, bro? Being that young though. Do you know what I mean? Like, he has the same face. This is scary. Sorry, Peter. Ah, das ist schon ganz schön gruselig, Alter. Digga. Oh my goodness. Alright. It was shocking for a second. I got scared, man. Peter Thiel and like young version looking at me, but like basically looking the same.
According to the author Max Chafkin, many of the students he perceived as bullies also identify as liberals, a connection that reportedly sticks with him. We in fact asked Thiel ourselves, but didn't get a response. Peter developed into a Reagan-supporting conservative. The campus itself feels far too left-wing for him. Anti-Reagan and anti-apartheid protests are prominent, and Peter starts to clash with demonstrators. In The Contrarian, Chefkin describes how classmates recall at least one instance where Peter defended apartheid as economically sound, an allegation that Thiel has since denied. At the time, some defenders of apartheid drew on libertarian arguments. Libertarians believe the best society maximizes personal and economic freedom while minimizing government control. They see free, unregulated markets as the best way to allocate resources and drive innovation. More radical libertarians value property rights and free markets above basically anything else. Critics say this leaves little room for values like social justice, which are cast as secondary or even incompatible with the libertarian definition of freedom. From that perspective, apartheid could be rationalized. South Africa's systematic denial of civil rights was simply the price to pay for its higher level of wealth than neighboring countries. By Peter's sophomore year, he's known on campus as a hardcore libertarian. And though the 80s sees students increasingly advocate for race and gender equality, Stanford is not an entirely liberal institution. It has a fair share of other conservative and libertarian students and faculty members during Peter's time there. Still, Chefkin describes Peter feeling like he's in the minority, and that the dominant campus culture is hostile to people like him. So he does what he'll keep doing throughout his life. He builds a network of like-minded men, the beginnings of a network that will support him throughout his career. What will later be known as the so-called PayPal Mafia.
Oh yeah, boy.
With 11 other conservative men, Peter launches a campus newspaper. The Stanford Review aims to stir things up. It regularly criticizes campus culture from a conservative perspective, with a famously biting style. Throughout Peter's time at Stanford, a few pieces especially stirred the pot. Chefkin found a few examples in the Stanford archives that he wasn't allowed to reproduce. One columnist claimed that gay men engage in unnatural sex. Another complained when Stanford considered adding non-white authors to the Western culture course, arguing it signaled the decline of the West. One whole issue was devoted to passionately defending a student accused of statutory rape, who was later found guilty. Peter's not just looking to provoke. He wants money, power, and influence. And as its founding editor-in-chief, the Stanford Review launches him into the public intellectual he's known as today. The paper captures the attention of high-profile conservatives, and a bit later Peter gets a book deal. The Diversity Myth is co-authored with David Sachs, the student who wrote in defense of an accused rapist in the Stanford Review. Nowadays, Sachs is also an influential figure on the American right. He currently serves the Trump administration as the White House's AI and crypto czar. The book argues that universities are dangerous breeding grounds for—
Yeah, and this is where it's really interesting, so you gotta pay attention to that, because it is interesting to see all of these connections, right? And I mean, either you're one of those guys that is like, yeah, you know, Peter Thiel's gonna take over the world with his whole AI transhumanism agenda, but or you think like, yeah, Trump's gonna save us because he's like keeping the enemies close and stuff like that, you know? So we never know. We will never know, probably. But let's have transhumanists around, man. Elon Musk, you know, Sam Altman. You have all these guys which are like super into the transhumanistic agenda. Yeah. Not more to add, really.
Or left-wing intellectual conformity. That nowadays, real racism barely exists in America, and that diversity initiatives pose a threat to Western culture. Sachs and Thiel have since apologized for some of the more controversial parts of the book, but these are the same anti-woke sentiments that are winning elections today.
You know, I ended woke.
So you probably can tell that this guy, and that's what I mean, is pretty anti-Trump, pretty anti-right, anti-AfD in Germany as well. So nevertheless, they usually got like nice research on certain topics, but it's kind of biased, you know? So you gotta take it with a grain of salt, man.
Totally. Everything woke turns to shit. Our country will be woke no longer.
Though Peter has plenty of gripes about Stanford, he stays on and graduates from its law school in 1992. He moves to New York to begin his legal career. Only aiming for the best, his goal is to clerk for the Supreme Court. He's got top grades, his own influential paper, and connections to the right people. But it's not enough.
I got interviews with 2 justices. They normally interview 8 people and select 4 as clerks. And I missed it with both, and it felt like it was the absolute end of the world.
Peter's not used to setbacks. He plunges into what he later described as a quarter-life crisis and briefly moves back in with his parents. But back on the West Coast, Peter proves he has a knack for turning losses into big wins. It's 1996. The tech industry is booming. Silicon Valley is a place with endless possibilities, loads of investor money, and above all, unclear rules. Peter wants in. Sure, he can't really code, but he can hand that off on someone else. Peter studies up on hedge fund management, raises some capital, and reinvents himself as an investor. At the same time, he continues publishing anti-woke columns. One that claims indigenous Peoples Day is anti-Western winds up in the Wall Street Journal. By chance, Peter meets the brilliant young cryptographer Max Levchin. Max is obsessed with Palm Pilots, clunky little handheld computers. At the time, they're barely more than a calendar with an internet connection. Not all investors would listen to a 20-something jabber away about Palm Pilots. But Peter's not a typical investor. Max believes Palm Pilots will have way more potential if they can be linked to businesses. If personal devices were linked to a business's infrastructure, a whole new world of uses would open up. Like connecting an individual directly with a bank. All someone needs to figure out is how to build an encrypted network that can securely link a handheld device with a corporate system. And Max believes he can do it. He is way ahead of his time, and Peter sees the potential immediately. He offers Max a $250,000 investment the very next day. Peter will become known for these big bets on inexperienced founders. Bets that very often pay off. On the surface, PayPal looks just like another convenient way to pay. But in reality, it was built on a radically libertarian vision. Money moving freely, beyond government control. The same vision that would later drive the crypto movement. And just like crypto, that freedom quickly attracts the gray areas of the economy. PayPal's early growth comes from industries most banks avoided, like gambling and NSFW stuff. Good thing Peter's been nurturing his political connections. As Chefkin tells it, Thiel worked to keep his business alive by lobbying Congress to keep online gambling legal and to stop PayPal from being treated as a national bank. We also asked Peter Thiel directly about this, but didn't get a response either. E-commerce is exploding in popularity. There's high demand for a tool that can simplify online transaction. And Max and Peter aren't the only ones working on a solution. PayPal isn't even the only online payment startup in the same building. There's a very similar company on the same floor. It's called X.com, and its founder has a lot in common with Peter. Most notably, Elon Musk is also an enterprising immigrant with roots in South Africa. Like Peter, he also shows little regard for traditional rules of the banking industry. Playing by every rule only...
Dude, he's looking so funny as well, losing his hair already in early age. I mean, it's not his fault. Poor Elon. But it's so funny to see them in younger age, looking the same.
Slows down growth. But for a while, they have no idea what each other's companies are for. Until a PayPal employee finds a business plan for X.com in a dumpster. And then it becomes impossible to ignore each other. They become two of the biggest fish in the sea of online payments. PayPal's growing rapidly, but at the same time bleeding funds. Every new user gets a cash bonus, most transactions rack up fees, and servers are expensive. Worse, the anonymity that makes PayPal attractive also opens the door to credit card fraud, and PayPal would have to refund the victim's stolen money. Max Levchin responds by building an anti-fraud system called Igor, software that flags suspicious patterns and blocks scam transactions. All the while, user anonymity is still preserved. Igor successfully curbs fraud by half of what it was. The FBI takes interest in the technology and starts using the software to catch money launderers. Still, PayPal isn't profitable. Peter thinks he knows the answer. It has to become a monopoly. Eliminate competitors, dominate the market, and set the rules. As Peter often puts it,
competition is for losers.
Competition is for losers. Competition is for losers.
This strategy will come to define Peter Thiel's success.
Okay.
He'll outline it in the business best-selling book 0 to 1, and it will become a guiding principle in the tech industry.
What I think everybody who is a founder or entrepreneur should aim to do is build a monopoly. And all the great companies that people have built are monopolies of one sort or another.
By 2000, the online payment space has grown more competitive, and PayPal is still operating at a loss. Elon suggests a merger, and Peter agrees. Uniting is their best chance for survival. According to The Contrarian, they clash from the start. Over the name, over the software. Elon becomes CEO because he's a bigger shareholder, but Peter allegedly can't stand his leadership. He's said to think Elon's a reckless egomaniac, and Elon is said to think Peter's a sociopath who only cares about money. Their battles stall the company's growth, so Thiel decides to end them.
They probably are both, I would say. Don't you think?
Elon goes on his honeymoon, leaving the CEO position undefended, and in an elegant, calculated move, Peter captures it. Levchin and others loyal to Thiel start voicing their gripes about Musk. They manage to convince enough board members to oust Musk and to insert Thiel as temporary CEO, a position he'll keep. It won't be Thiel's last tactical takedown. As CEO of PayPal, Peter Thiel is on a whole new playing field. In 2002, he secures a landmark deal. eBay acquires PayPal for $1.5 billion. Thiel becomes a multi-millionaire at 35 years old, walking away with at least $55 million from the deal. Now he has the capital and credibility to pursue his wildest dreams.
Alright.
The day he signs the deal is the day he also steps down as CEO. PayPal was just a stepping stone. Now he's ready to move on to bigger and bolder projects, and to live the high life as a very rich person. He buys a silver Ferrari and fancy apartments. Now the formerly bullied kid is the life of the party. More and more people want to be in his orbit. Thiel's personal trajectory is skyrocketing, but the country is spiraling. In the wake of 9/11, Americans also face a recession, an unpopular war, and widespread trauma. Thiel is anxious too. He's increasingly concerned with the threat of religious terrorism. He finds the Bush administration isn't tough enough on Islam. His politics seem to shift. At Stanford, he wrote fiery libertarian essays railing against government power. Now he's arguing the opposite, that the US must use extrajudicial methods to catch terrorists. As he put it, outside the checks and balances of representative democracy as described in high school textbooks. For Thiel, the trade-off is clear. The West must compromise. More security, less freedom. And he sees a business opportunity in it. What if Igor, the software Max Levchin built to catch fraudsters, could be retooled to catch terrorists? Wouldn't the CIA be interested? In 2003, Thiel gets a team to start working on it right away. They'll call the company Palantir. In The Lord of the Rings, a Palantir is a mythical stone that sees and communicates across far distances. Sauron, the evil character who seeks to dominate Middle-earth, uses a Palantir to spy on enemies and conspire with allies.
The power of Isengard is at your command, Sauron, Lord of the Earth.
Basically, Thiel is offering Sauron's power to anyone who can afford it. Palantir's promise? Use network analysis to find unforeseen patterns in vast troves of data. This is especially interesting to US intelligence agencies who had collected information on Al-Qaeda conspirators but failed to see the connections till after the attack. In the early years, many users are disappointed with Palantir's service, but their timing is excellent with everyone terrified of another attack. And Thiel's chosen CEO is excellent.
This guy. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. What I'm going to tell you. This boy, bro. He's so weird. He is so unbelievably weird, man.
At raising money. His name is Alex Karp. He's another former Stanford classmate. When Osama bin Laden is captured and killed, rumors circulate that Palantir was used to find him. Public interest in the company skyrockets. Based on what's known today about Palantir's abilities at the time, any meaningful involvement is questionable. When media outlets ask Alex Kurp about that rumor, he's careful not to confirm or deny involvement. He tends to dodge the question with a smile and imply that some connection is there.
Did your company help to track and kill Osama bin Laden?
When you open the paper and look in the news about these kind of things, there's a 2/3 chance, depending on the country involved, that somehow my company was involved.
One media outlet isn't buying the hype. A gossipy blog called Gawker. According to Max Chafkin, Gawker's Silicon Valley page reports no real link between Palantir and the Bin Laden raid, and suggests the company spread the rumor just to boost sales. Valleywag is known for roasting the tech industry back when most news outlets tend to sing its praises. And a favorite target of Gawker's gossip and mockery is Peter Thiel. Thiel will take care of Gawker later. Beyond founding Palantir, Thiel spends the 2000s turning tech startups into giants.
I was the sort of first angel investor in Facebook in summer of 2004. The business was already tracking quite well. They only needed money to buy more computers. So I think that was always sort of a promising sign.
In 2004, he becomes Facebook's first big investor. Thiel not only funds the company, but becomes Zuckerberg's mentor. Now Zuckerberg is one of the richest people alive, and Thiel's investment will net him about $400 million.
This android. I swear his eyes. I think I don't know anyone's. I really mean it. I mean, oh my goodness. People do say the same about Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. But Mark Zuckerberg is like the king that gets the crown on top. You know, like, dude, I bow to you. You are like the most android, like, human android that is out there. I swear, when I look into his eyes, just like, it's so weird. How can you be so cold, man? Like, there's nothing coming when I look at this guy.
Thiel doesn't stop there. Through his network, he backs Airbnb, Spotify, SpaceX, and later OpenAI. In 2007, Thiel seems to have spotted the financial crisis early. He bets against the US housing market. The gamble pays off. A 60% return in just 6 months. Banks will collapse and around 9 million Americans will lose their jobs. But for Thiel, it's cause for celebration. According to Chafkin, he flies his stuff to Maui with unlimited tabs for food, booze, massages, and surfing.
Well,
we asked Peter Thiel if this is true, but he didn't answer. But Thiel's golden run doesn't last. After a string of bad investments and mass redemptions, his hedge fund suffers huge losses and all but collapses. By 2011, he will have lost nearly 2/3 of his clients' money.
Damn.
The crisis seems to make Thiel more cynical. In 2009, he writes that he still believes in libertarian principles, but no longer in democracy. I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible, he declares. He argues that America has been in decline since the 1920s, when women gained the right to vote and when the Great Depression created mass unemployment. In his view...
Oh shit. I gotta say though, it is very interesting thinking about democracy. If you really like democracy, and I gotta be honest, I'm not a big fan of democracy, because democracy doesn't mean that people choose the right thing. As we can see, it's like, I mean, not that we're really living in a democracy. It's like maybe the illusion of one, if you want to say so. Maybe that's what the little birdie whispered into my ear, at least. But like, if you really think about it, just because like 51% are thinking we should vote this, but then we still have like 49% which are like, no, let's not do it. And they're just left out and they just have to adjust just because other people like it. Is that really the system that is like perfect? I don't know. You tell me.
Women and poor people are especially hostile to libertarian policies. Their ability to vote stands in the way of his ideal society. The essay makes waves. Gawker Media calls him a loopy libertarian, ridiculing him for wishing women couldn't vote. Thiel later clarifies it's not that he wants to take one class of voters' rights away. The problem is that Americans in general won't vote for libertarian policies. So, better to do away with democracy altogether? Meanwhile, Gawker Media gleefully reports Thiel's investment failures. They claim he exaggerates his net worth and make fun of his hypocrisies. Gawker reported on a lot of important topics other media outlets wouldn't touch till much later, like the crimes of Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein. But they also posted a lot of arguably cruel gossip. In 2007, they outed Thiel's sexual orientation with a post titled, "Peter Thiel is totally gay, people." Peter Thiel's sexuality was an open secret at the time, but he didn't seem to want it reported. His outing was clearly a violation of privacy. According to The Contrarian, Thiel sees Gawker's coverage as damaging to his business. And plenty of other people have grudges against the site, so Thiel quietly funds a team of lawyers to take up their cases. The decisive moment comes in 2012, when Gawker publishes a leaked sex tape of the wrestler Hulk Hogan. Hogan sues, and Thiel secretly bankrolls the fight with $10 million.
The stage is set for a major courtroom battle. Hulk Hogan, former professional wrestler turned reality star, is taking on media website Gawker.
Gawker is hit with just over $140 million in damages and files for bankruptcy in 2016. Gawker Media is no more, and Thiel is proud of his win, calling it the most philanthropic thing he's ever done. In an interview, he compares the journalists behind the company to terrorists. The world learned that it's dangerous to mess with Peter Thiel. Reporters Without Borders called his feat a serious threat on freedom of the press. Critics argue that this set a precedent for wealthy individuals to weaponize the courts and bury media that criticizes them. But Peter Thiel is just getting started. It's often said that two things in life are certain: death and taxes. Well, Peter Thiel disagrees. What others see as inevitabilities, Thiel sees as problems to be solved. He famously funds biotech companies pursuing life extension. His hatred of taxes has him pour resources into anti-tax politics.
So now this is a very, let's say, mediocre documentary. I mean, that's what I said. It's kind of biased. You can tell they talk about a lot about like woke shit, feminism, gay stuff, whatever, man. The stuff that I don't care about. This is the stuff that I care about. I mean, also the money connection, like, you know, being invested in all these companies like Facebook, Spotify, blah, 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 and so on. But like this thing where most people are like, yeah, well, you know, extending life, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to be that serious. But I think you're wrong. So, yeah, let's see.
Actions and also seasteading. Man-made island nations free from income tax and governmental regulations. A floating libertarian utopia where he can escape systems he finds oppressive. An idea he has since abandoned. He looks into other exit plans, like a bunker in New Zealand, which he also later drops, and the chance for humanity to reach Mars. This becomes Peter Thiel's pattern, seeking escape. Escape from rules that govern everyone else. But escape on Peter Thiel's scale doesn't come easily. Immortality research and space exploration require massive resources. Changing tax laws requires massive influence. Fortunately for Thiel, his wealth and influence have grown enormously, so he can attempt to reshape politics to enable his search for escape. In 2007, he does something unusual for Silicon Valley entrepreneurs. He starts funding presidential candidates. His first big bet is the libertarian Ron Paul, a long-shot candidate for presidency, but a politician with a passionate base. Like Thiel, Paul is an advocate for extreme free market capitalism. They're also both skeptical of climate change to different degrees. Ron Paul doesn't win the 2008 presidency, Obama does. In 2012, Ron Paul runs again, and this time Thiel is his biggest donor by a long shot. Thiel wasn't really banking on Paul's win. Instead, he was thinking ahead. In an interview with the magazine Slate from 2012, Thiel says he was really campaigning for 2016, building up a strong libertarian base. Thiel seems to want a candidate who will ensure his wealth will be protected. One who will grant more power to the tech industry, and one who shares his view.
Mr. Evil Donald Trump, the dictator of our time.
That America is in decline and needs a strong man to become great again. When Trump is revealed as the best candidate to promote those aims, Thiel donates $1.25 million to his campaign. In 2016, Thiel takes the stage at the Republican National Convention during primetime.
Tonight, I urge all of my fellow Americans to stand up and vote for Donald Trump.
Thiel campaigns for Trump as if his views represented Silicon Valley. But at the time, Trump is deeply unpopular in tech. Of the top tech companies in the Valley, not a single CEO donates to Trump's 2016 campaign. And Thiel's support of Trump makes him somewhat of a pariah. According to the contrarian, friends cut ties with him or refuse to discuss politics. Thiel is unbothered. They'll change their tune soon enough. Besides, he's starting to lean into his image as the Silicon Valley supervillain. He reportedly once said, "I'd rather be seen as evil than incompetent." When Trump shocks the world by winning, Thiel is part of the transition team. His role is to appoint people who will disrupt regulatory bodies like the Federal Trade Commission and the Food and Drug Administration. A dream job for Thiel, who's railed against governmental regulation for decades. Thiel reportedly suggests 150 names to Trump. According to Max Chefkin, his list includes, to no surprise, ultra-libertarians, but also very controversial figures. Fringe people from his growing network of far-right reactionaries. Trump only approves a handful of them.
You know what I mean, bro? I gotta say, it's getting worse. I was trying it, man. I was trying it, Fern. But, like, you're too biased for my taste. Start that shit.
The least controversial suggestions that Thiel makes. So Thiel's first attempt at capturing the White House seems to have failed. Politically, Thiel retreats to the background for a bit. He and his partner have their first child and he seems to focus on family life for a while. But the background is where Peter Thiel thrives the most. Outside of politics, Thiel's businesses are skyrocketing, especially Palantir. During COVID, Palantir wins government contracts to analyze pandemic data, tracking infections and vaccines. In 2025, Business Insider reports that under the second Trump administration, ICE will use Palantir to track down immigrants who overstayed their visas. Palantir's involvement has only intensified under Trump and has been instrumental for over a decade, since Obama's second administration. The Guardian reports in 2025 that Palantir provides ICE with tools that help their agents fulfill Trump's aggressive deportation quotas using a vast data network. It includes government records such as tax data from the IRS and private databases like location history from cell phone records. Now Palantir also incorporates facial recognition data from Clearview AI, another startup where Peter Thiel is the first investor. The pattern is clear. Palantir thrives in chaos, and chaos is only ramping up. What?
We gotta get the good things out of that shit though, you know? Get the important things, leave all the other crap aside. You always gotta filter through your own filter, you know? So it's not all bad, it's just too much.
Looks like a political setback with Trump may just be Thiel's chance to plan his next move. Thiel won't back Trump's second campaign, but he will build up another politician.
We're effectively run in this country.
And we're gonna get more into it, and it's definitely gonna be more interesting because my boy Ian is killing it, I swear. He's like deep diving into all that stuff, which is crazy.
Via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made.
Thiel injects J.D. Vance's primary campaign with $15 million. Vance is now Vice President of the United States. Thiel and Vance's relationship didn't come out of nowhere. Vance worked at one of Thiel's companies and Thiel became his mentor, as Vance himself says. And it was also Thiel who brought J.D. Vance and Donald Trump together. After Trump is elected as president again in 2024, several members of the tech elite rally behind him. There's Elon Musk, who is against Trump in 2016 and becomes his most visible supporter in 2024. There's Mark Zuckerberg, who abolishes fact-checkers at Meta less than 2 weeks before Trump takes office. And there's Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, who donates $1 million to Trump just before inauguration. At the inauguration of Trump's second presidency in January 2025, major tech CEOs are clearly visible in the front row. But one person isn't there that day. He's in the background again. Peter Thiel. Instead, he watches Palantir's stock skyrocket and topping the market for much of 2025. The surge is in part fueled by government contracts. And not just in the US. Palantir has been hired by Israeli forces allegedly to enable AI-powered...
Wait. Palantir allegedly enables Israel's AI targeting in Gaza, raising consists of war crimes.
targeting of Palestinians, which the company denies, and by Ukraine in its war against Russia. These and other contracts not only boost Palantir's profits, they also give the company access to extremely sensitive data. Few assets carry more power or more potential for harm. So who decides how it's used? We reached out to Peter Thiel as well as Palantir because we had a lot of questions. Unfortunately, none of them were answered.
What?
In 2012, Peter Thiel said, "One of the things I like about technology is that when technology is unregulated, you can change the world without getting approval from other people. At its best, it's not subject to democratic control and not subject to the majority, which I think is often hostile to change." A recent venture Thiel backed is called Erebor, a crypto bank named after the mountain in The Hobbit where a murderous dragon hoards treasure. And now Trump is pushing one of Thiel's wilder ideas: low-tax freedom cities where corporations can operate without federal regulations.
We'll actually build new cities in our country again. These freedom cities will reopen the frontier, reignite American imagination.
Freedom cities aren't just for making a lot of money. The goal is also to conduct research without governmental approval. One such place already exists, Prospera in Honduras. You already know who helped fund it. The libertarian utopia Peter Thiel dreams of no longer needs Mars or the open ocean. It's being built right in America.
Well. Okay, thank you, Fern, for your take on that stuff. I mean, it was interesting. You are too biased for my taste. That's what I can say. But, I mean, you know, that's what it is. It is what it is, man. So I gotta go to the toilet for a second, then I'll be right back, and then we're gonna watch my boy Ian Carroll, you know, burning that shit down, because he's like got the interesting stuff for us in terms of connection and everything, where the money goes, the funding of JD Vance and all that stuff. So I hope if you're not gone already, please stick to it. Stick around and I'll be back in a second. All right, guys. So we're gonna go and do it. As I said, this one's gonna be nice. So let's start.
Everyone's talking about Palantir, the new AI warfare technology that Trump is planning to deploy against American citizens. But not enough people know about J.D. Vance's long history with Palantir's founder, Peter Thiel, who all but placed J.D. Vance in the White House. In case that wasn't the end of the world as we know it, Ukraine decided to launch a massive attack against Russia right before peace talks resumed, and trans people are still riding the gay rights movement all the way to your kids' classrooms. All that coming up today on Candace. Welcome back, guys. Last week, Candace put me on to JD Vance's name changing, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it ever since. Because I knew that JD Vance had some sketchy history and some dark forces behind his political rise, but I didn't know how much I didn't know. So let's start today by diving into the history of our smooth-talking vice president from the most humble of beginnings. Because if you didn't know, JD Vance was not born JD, and not born Vance. In fact, he's changed his first, middle, and last names more than once. He was born James Donald Bowman in Ohio in 1984. Following his mother's divorce from his father, his name was changed to James David Hamill. Donald becoming David allowed him to keep his nickname as JD, and his last name became Hamill after his mother's third husband's name. After his mother divorced again, he changed his last name to Vance. By then, he was serving as a U.S. Marine. Worth noting, though, that although he rightly called out Tim Walz for stolen valor during the presidential campaign, Vance didn't exactly serve in combat either. He was in the press corps and served as a military journalist. I don't really know what that means, but I know it means that he didn't see combat, and that's fine. It's just worth noting, I thought. So it's also worth noting that in his book, Hillbilly Elegy, he claimed he changed his name on his wedding day in 2014. But his legal name change took place in April of 2013, just before he graduated from Yale. If you don't know, Yale has a long and storied reputation as a grooming and recruiting ground for America's power elite. The intelligence agencies recruit from Yale, and many presidents, politicians, and senior executives grace its halls. J.D. Vance, as far as we know, was not in Skull and Bones, but I want to remind us all about Skull and Bones real quick while we're here. Skull and Bones is the quintessential secret society. All sorts of wild stories and rumors surround their induction rituals, mostly involving a coffin and somewhat homosexual group acts that are hard to classify as anything other than a shared blackmail ritual. Skull and Bones is most notable, though, for the sheer quantity of powerful historical figures that have come through its roster. In many ways, it is the quintessential secret society, and it is housed in Yale. Directors and founders of the world's largest banking institutions, such as Brown Brothers Harriman, Standard Oil, and Morgan Stanley. The entire Bush dynasty from Prescott down to George II, along with a couple of brothers along the way, and H.W.'s father-in-law and namesake, George Herbert Walker Jr. Several of the Bundy family who surrounded JFK before his death were members. Both presidential candidates in the 2000 presidential elections, George Bush and John Kerry, were both members of Skull and Bones, just a couple years apart, likely meaning that they were brothers under the skin, as it is referred to by some Bones members. The founder of Blackstone Group, Stephen Schwarzman, was also from that same class, and U.S. Treasury Secretary and human turnip, Steve Mnuchin, were also members. This is just a tiny handful of the hundreds of people who came through Skull and Bones and went on to rule huge portions of the world. Ever since Bush versus Kerry in 2000, I personally wondered whether they truly make membership public still, because if I were them, I'd be keeping that stuff secret, because ass like me will be out here on the internet ringing the alarm that secret societies control the world in 2025, which obviously they do not. No way. And so to clarify, Vance was not.
Man, this is definitely way more my type of video. Sorry, I let you down with the first one. I was trying to give it a chance, man. I thought it's gonna be good. I didn't know, dude. I swear, if I would have known that it would be that channel, because I know this German channel, and I told you I'm not really watching the videos of them because they're too biased for me, and you know they're just scratching the surface. And then I probably wouldn't have brought it into the stream, but I wanted to, you know, make it through the video, give them a chance, man. Still appreciate the work, but it's not the real deal. It's not the real deal. This one's much better though. So let's go.
in Skull and Bones or any other secret society that we know of. But he was groomed for power by none other than Peter Thiel. And we'll get into that in a minute. But first, we've got to talk about his ancestry. And I'm not referring to an early life check. I'm referring to the claims that JD himself has loudly made about his Scotch-Irish heritage. Because you see, Ireland was very excited to claim the vice president of the United States as their own, and they launched a genealogical investigation to try to draw a conclusive link between Vance and his claimed Irish heritage. And they were surprised to find that they could not. Not only could they not prove his heritage, they said that they found, quote, no evidence linking the US vice president to Ireland. So that...
You see Israeli though? He got some Jewish connection going on? I don't know. Let's see though.
That's a little awkward, seeing as in how in his own book, JD said, quote, to understand me, you must understand that I am a Scots-Irish hillbilly at heart. Listen, it's okay to be a hillbilly, JD, but now you've made it weird. You see, Yale was classically a WASP school, meaning white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, basically synonymous with the old boys club of American elites. And to this day, it still is obviously very representative of the American elite. But JD is a man of the people. He's one of the poors, just like you and me. And the plot gets even thicker when you learn about Vance's benefactor and backer all the way from Yale straight to the White House. Peter Thiel, the founder of Palantir and one of the most powerful men in America, seems to have more or less placed him there almost single-handedly. Derek Bros reported this February that Vance was in attendance at David Sachs's June 2024 fundraiser for Trump. And real quick, Sachs and Thiel go way back to PayPal, where David Sachs was the chief operating officer, but these days Sachs is a billionaire venture capitalist with investments in Palantir, Facebook, SpaceX, Airbnb, and Uber, just to name a few. He was also just named AI and crypto czar by Donald Trump. And that's not to say he's evil, just to say that he's not like you or me, and that he runs with a certain type of crowd and his interests are aligned with that same crowd. So, Vance attended this Sachs fundraiser dinner, and according to two people with knowledge of the exchange during the event, Trump informally polled the room to ask who he should pick for vice president. David Sachs, Chamath Palihapitiya, and others all told Trump that he should choose Vance. So the tech billionaires wanted Vance. I don't know if Thiel was at that party, but whether he was or not, all his friends were. But Vance owes much more than that to Thiel and his circle of friends around him. He claims that he was first inspired to work in big tech after hearing a speech by Peter Thiel at Yale Law School in 2011. In 2016, he became a junior investor at Mithril Capital, which is backed by Peter Thiel. He then jumped on to Thiel's personal recommendation to biotech firm Circuit Therapeutics. And in 2019, he founded his own venture firm, Naria Capital, with financial backing from, you guessed it, Peter Thiel. Then, when Vance decided to enter politics, Thiel gave him $15 million to his campaign, which is no small sum for a Senate race. And when that still was not enough, Peter Thiel personally brokered a meeting with Trump and secured a Trump endorsement for Vance, which pushed him ahead of his opposition in the race. He was elected to the Senate in 2023, and just 2 years later was headed to the White House, once again with the funding and support of Peter Thiel. Plus, along the way, he became a New York Times best-selling author on his very first try, and that book was picked up by Netflix themselves and turned into a giant blockbuster hit with A-list actors.
I didn't even know that. That's kind of weird. Like, what? Okay.
Even though it earned the rare distinction of a leading actor being nominated for a performance award by critics and an award for how terrible a performance was by the audience for the exact same role, when you dig into the question of who wrote this book, it's not exactly clear. None of his editors or anyone involved with the book seems super eager to talk about it, and friends from law school seem not to have had any sense that JD was such an authorial genius.
Yeah.
He's well-spoken, but not particularly poetic. And as someone who spent COVID writing novels in my free time, I can tell you that it is not easy to string together a storyline, let alone a good one. Furthermore, it's worth considering who he was presented to us as at the time he was presented. Trump's rise changed America. And it was clear since 2016 that Trump's voter base, which is middle-class America, the regular men and women of this country, particularly of the rural parts of this country, would be deciding elections in coming cycles. And so who do the tech billionaires offer up? They offer up a Midwest hillbilly who came from nothing to achieve the American dream and then some. It's all just awfully convenient. And whether or not there is some grand evil conspiracy behind his rise, we can say for certain that he was endorsed. He was endorsed first and foremost by Peter Thiel, ever since day one, all the way to the White House. He was endorsed by venture capital in Silicon Valley. He was endorsed by mainstream publishing and Netflix. And ultimately, he was endorsed by the Republican Party. All told, that is probably the strongest logic to not like him that there is, at least in my book. And just to clarify, I like JD Vance, or at least I like what he says. I like how he presents himself. He's sharp. He's funny. He's got a great balance of humility and witty clapbacks. He's articulate. He's the best vice president I can remember in my short lifetime. But it is awfully convenient for Peter Thiel that he gets his boy into office, and then within just a few months, Palantir announces a new mega program with the Trump government. And not just any program, but Palantir's specialty, a digital mass surveillance system to target you and your family and all the rest of us. The Economic Times reported that, quote, Palantir isn't just improving old databases, it's building what some experts are calling the most expansive civilian surveillance infrastructure in US history. Instead of scattered files and spreadsheets, the platform will use real-time data integration and artificial intelligence to profile behavior, detect fraud, and identify individuals or patterns deemed risky by the system. At the core of the project is Palantir's Gotham software. Already used by defense and intelligence agencies, Gotham will now be used on the domestic front. It doesn't just track information, it makes judgments. It could influence everything from how benefits are distributed to who gets flagged for closer scrutiny by law enforcement or immigration officers. So, good. They're deploying military surveillance AI to watch our every move and decide who the government should bug. And by bug, I mean investigate, harass, arrest, and probably more. And while the Economic Times reported that they would be deploying a technology called Gotham, Raw Story reported about a different product called Foundry. This article reads, the push has put a key Palantir product called Foundry into at least 4 federal agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security and the Health and Human Services Department, the newspaper reported. Widely adopting Foundry, which organizes and analyzes data, paves the way for Mr. Trump to easily merge information from different agencies, the government officials said. Creating detailed portraits of Americans based on government data is not just a pipe dream. The company has received also new contracts from the Pentagon and is speaking to the Social Security Administration and the Internal Revenue Service about buying its technology, according to 6 government officials and knowledgeable Palantir employees. And Democratic lawmakers have warned that Trump could use the personal information to target immigrants and punish his critics. And that is exactly the wrong narrative to push, guys. Bad, Raw Story. Bad. This is clearly a leftist argument that they are making. They could use this to target immigrants. No, they could and will use this to target anyone and everyone. This won't just get used on critics of the Trump administration. This will get used on critics of every future American government until the end of America, because that's how government works. Once you give them a power, they never give it back. And we are entering into territory from which there is no return. And inflaming leftist talking points are both unnecessary and not the move. This is not a partisan issue.
Exactly. And this is where the documentary before is bullshit. Because they're just like talking about feminism, woke, anti-gay. He's doing things with Putin. It's like, dude, shut the fuck. You know, you gotta focus on the important things. As my boy Ian is telling now, like, it's not about left, right, whatever, up and down, man. It's, you know, they have like bigger goals.
In fact, this is a deeply anti-American issue, and I'm sure I don't need to explain to a conservative why having AI watching you at all times and doling out social credit scores is a bad thing. Because when you look into these 2 Palantir projects, Foundry and Gotham, Foundry is for corporations to surveil data and trends, while Gotham is for law enforcement and military intelligence to surveil the battlefield. When you combine the thirst for power and information of corporations with intelligence agencies in combat zones, what kind of surveillance system do you think you're gonna get? Listen, I am sure that Peter is a perfectly nice guy, despite his opinion that our tax dollars being used to bomb children in Gaza is really none of our business and we should defer to Israel. But even if Peter Thiel creates this system with the noblest of intentions, who's the next guy that's going to be in charge of it? And then the next. I mean, it's a good thing that there's no corrupt people in the US government who might have access to all of your personal medical, financial, social, digital, and movement data, because if there were any corrupt people in the government, they might be able to do some really bad stuff with all that. Like, it's a good thing that Larry Ellison isn't in the government, or at least not since he retired from the CIA way back in the day before he founded Oracle, because he said some pretty effed up things about privacy and digital surveillance over the years, such as, quote, citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting. You know, I'll just let him talk because he doesn't make it sound any better.
Your body cams will be transmitting that. The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. We actually take the video that the police officer is, by the way, and the camera's always on. You don't turn it on and off. And by the way you turn it on, you can't turn it on. I'm going to the bathroom. Oracle, I need 2 minutes to take a bathroom break, and we'll turn it off. The truth is, we don't really turn it off. What we do is we record it so no one can see it, but no one can get into that recording without a court order.
Oh, that's good to know, Larry. You might notice that Larry is literally...
I love it, bro. They're just saying it, man, every time.
On stage at a giant conference. He's just saying this out loud to the world because he doesn't even realize how 1984 this is. Larry Ellison hovers somewhere on the list of the top 10 richest people in the world most of the time. And he's so out of touch that he does not realize how out of touch he is. When asked about illegal NSA surveillance programs, he said, quote, "The great thing is that we live in a democracy. If we don't like what NSA is doing, we can just get rid of the government and put in a different government." No, Larry, we are not billionaires. We do not have the luxury that you and your boys, Peter Thiel and pals, have, where we can just install vice presidents and the like. We live in a republic, not a democracy. And I think we all know that the republic was replaced some time ago with an oligarchy, which is teetering dangerously close to just a straight up kleptocracy. Larry has been making out of touch public statements like this for years. Here is a clip from CBS Morning Show all the way back in 2013.
This whole issue of privacy is utterly fascinating to me. Who's ever heard of this information being misused by the government? In what way?
Well, let me just hear you.
What? For real?
Clearly, you're saying whatever the NSA is doing is okay with me.
It's great. Yeah, it's great. It's essential. By the way, President Obama thinks it's essential. It's essential if we want to minimize the kind of strikes that we just had in Boston. It's absolutely essential.
But what point would it be alarming for you in terms of government surveillance? At what point would your red line be crossed?
If the government used it to do political targeting, if the Democrats used it to go after Republicans.
Really? Oh no. This is hilarious, bro. Thank you for those clips, man.
If the Republicans used it to go after Democrats. In other words, if it became we stopped looking for terrorists and we started looking for people with on the other side of the aisle.
Right, Larry. Who has ever heard of the government misusing this type of data? I don't know. How about that one time when the federal government mandated an experimental medical procedure with no concern for HIPAA or medical privacy or autonomy, no informed consent, and no accountability for your oligarch buddies when they made off with billions of dollars and we made off with a long list of strange side effects and a totally mysterious spike in all-cause mortality? And where he would draw the line on surveillance? If we stopped looking for terrorists and started looking for people on the other side of the aisle? Oh yeah. Like if you started looking for people on college campuses that criticized a foreign government, not even our own corrupt government, a foreign government. Yeah, Larry, I'm sure that our government would never use these powers for political or other immoral motivations.
Nope.
Let's just ask the Tea Party or the Canadian truckers about it. Did I mention that this guy was CIA before he founded Oracle?
Fucking
yeah. He worked on a classified program called Oracle, and then one day he shut it down, quit the CIA, and founded Oracle, the public corporation. Totally unrelated. That corporation is already databasing just about everything you do online. That's what they do and what they sell. And oh yeah, he's back to the government thing. Because one of the first things that Trump announced upon getting into office was his new Stargate project. Sounds really cool. It's Trump's plan to invest $500 billion in AI infrastructure by building out a vast network of supercomputer data centers. And from what I can tell, this government project actually sounds more like a socialized private company where our government funds a private venture that will have immense power over our lives. And in this case, that quasi-government project will be headed by SoftBank, OpenAI, and Oracle. Let's not get into the accusations against Sam Altman by his sister right now, or the cover-up and erasure of those accusations by his own AI platform, because that's a whole can of worms. Because just as Trump and pals are proposing and parading around all these new AI digital surveillance programs, they are also working hard to pass regulation that will lock us all into this dystopia. And here we arrive at Trump's big, beautiful bill, which is inching closer and closer to his desk and becoming law. In it is contained a section that bans states from passing any laws that would regulate AI for a period of 10 years. And with the rate at which AI is progressing, that might as well be an entire lifetime. Just down here at the bottom of the page, guys, it says, quote, "In general, except as provided in paragraph 2, no state or political subdivision thereof may enforce during the 10-year period beginning on the date of the enactment of this act any law or regulation of that state or a political subdivision thereof limiting, restricting, or otherwise regulating artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems entered into interstate commerce."
That is crazy, bro. I didn't know about that one. And this is what I mean. You can see that they are placing, or let's say new players have been placed into this world already. And we can just, by looking at those things, we can tell already where it's going to head, in which direction. Wow.
How weird. How convenient. We've got this great big plan to run off with this new unprecedented technology. And just in case any of you pesky freedom-loving states gets any wise ideas about passing any laws or regulations to protect your citizens from it, you can't. If Larry and Peter and their technocrat buddies want to watch and record your every move, they're gonna do it. You're gonna let them do it, and by golly, you're gonna like it. But it's important to consider the other side of the argument too. It's not as simple as just saying, ew, gross, surveillance. Everything associated with surveillance is just icky, right? We do need to understand why these ideas are so seductive to Trump and to the American people, and why they are quite likely to be enacted whether we like it or not. The world is a complex and dangerous place. America is not the only force in it. And AI is every bit as dangerous and disruptive as nuclear bombs ever were. And we do want our country to be at the forefront of those innovations, lest a truly evil country get ahead and figure out Lord knows what. A similar argument can be made for surveillance. If these guys have their way, then yes, there will probably be far less crime. Give it 5 years and they'll be floating the idea that we should outlaw humans driving cars because robots never ever crash anymore. And all car accidents are caused by us, human error.
It will come.
1984 will be sold to us with promises of safety and comfort because that's what it will deliver. The world is incredibly safe when you have no freedom and no risk, and everything around you is a simple, boring, controlled existence. Comfort and security is how just about everything you buy today is marketed to you. The American dream has been perverted by profits to no longer mean hard work and the freedom to forge your own path, and now it equates to a big TV and holidays and weekends off work. My point is it worth it? What would you trade for your freedom? Is safety and comfort worth the price? Because there is no end to the freedom and comfort that these men will sell you. But who knows? Maybe Larry Ellison is right. After all, I'll let him say it.
Great thing is we live in a democracy. If we don't like what NSA is doing, we can just get rid of the government and put in a different government.
It's an interesting idea, Larry. But anyways, if you don't like what the NSA is doing, then you're going to really hate what the CIA is up to in Ukraine. And we'll get to that in just a moment, right after a quick break. I want to take a moment to tell you about American financing. We're all feeling it. For a homeowner, that lets them making could clash can't service teams. Join the homeless when you go to Americans4.com.
So sorry, Ian, for skipping your advertisement. I'm just gonna get something quick for a finger. Oh, all right. Because I have this chronic overuse of my A2 tendon. So this tendon here, right? I don't know if any of you is bouldering or climbing, but this A2 tendon is kind of sore, man, and I have to, give it some manual therapy to get better because I want to board climb so bad again. But I have to be disciplined and relax for a bit. So I gotta work on it.
.com/Owens and make the switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. Welcome back, guys. There's a lot going on across the pond. Ukraine just launched a massive attack on Russia over the weekend, damaging and destroying up to 1/3 of Russia's strategic nuclear bomber fleet.
Damn.
The mainstream media has been cooing ever since about how brilliant and audacious and inspired and heroic the attack was. Clearly, they got their marching orders, and clearly we are supposed to still be supporting this proxy war with the world's second largest nuclear power. It's completely insane. I mean, imagine if a nation targeted our nuclear capabilities. What do you think America would do? And I'm just going to say it. Lindsey Graham should be investigated for treason. He should be investigated for treason because he just got back from a trip to Ukraine and talked with Volodymyr Zelensky about his new sanctions bill. And I can't help but wonder if Graham knew what Zelensky was up to. Just speculation. Plus, most of the mainstream media coverage that I'm seeing isn't even mentioning that these planes that were damaged and destroyed were part of Russia's nuclear capability. They choose instead to paint them as the planes that are dropping bombs on Ukrainian cities every other day. Two things can be true at once, and yet the skew of reporting clearly demonstrates an agenda, not to paint this as a dangerous escalation in the war, but instead as a heroic strike from the underdog. The narrative is also sharply slanted to emphasize over and over and over that Zelensky didn't even tell the US what he was up to. The US didn't even know. Trust me, bro, we had nothing to do with it. Not the US targeting Russia's nuclear capability at all. For some reason, I doubt Putin is buying that charade either. If the CIA is not carefully monitoring what the corrupt government of Ukraine is doing in this conflict at all times, they're not doing a very good job at their primary objective. And I, for one, have a very hard time believing that the deep state didn't know of this attack in advance. To make things more interesting, you might be asking, why were Russia's nuclear capable bombers just sitting out on the tarmac like that? Seems a little weird. Well, they were out on the tarmac because of a treaty that Russia signed with the US, the latest one in a series of treaties called START. which is all about inspecting each other's nuclear weapon capabilities to make sure that no one's getting any funny ideas. This is straight off of Wikipedia. You can read more into it if you want. On 1st of June 2025, Ukraine claimed to have destroyed more than a dozen nuclear strategic bombers, including 2 Tu-160s, at airfields deep inside Russia with swarms of small drones. The bombers were still parked not in nuclear strike protective bunkers, but in open air, according to obligations under the New START treaty with the US. What a convenient coincidence. You see, this is what this proxy war is all about. Cripple Russia, weaken her at the expense of thousands of Ukrainian lives, and maneuver into a position in which Russia can finally be taken down and into the Western fold. I, for one, get the sense that Putin and many Russians would sooner die. And Russia, need I remind us all, has enough nukes to end the human race. This is not a fight we should be fighting, and the American people clearly voted as such. Trump was issued a clear mandate by the American people to stop funding this war and to push for de-escalation and peace. And with peace talks scheduled to resume right now, I can't help but imagine the calculus has changed on the ground for everyone involved. But most importantly, the mainstream media, as always, continues to paint this war as one of Russian aggression. They never want to talk about how our CIA overthrew the Ukrainian government in 2014 in the Maidan Revolution. They never want to talk about Russia's perspective, which is totally understandable, that they don't want NATO and Western nuclear weapons and military forces stationed right on their border, a particularly vulnerable section of their border, no less. If we were Russia, we would not be putting up with this for even 1 second. And America and NATO have always known this. The original agreement was that NATO would not expand 1 inch to the east. And now, it's being suggested, even expected by our neocons, that NATO should invite Ukraine to join, placing our military and
a lot of NATO, Russia, Ukraine talk. Okay. I mean, it's good that we see this kind of, didn't escalate that much. But yeah, give me more Peter Thiel, bro.
Nuclear capabilities right at Russia's doorstep. It's also important in every war these days to remind us all that this foreign aid that we are sending to Ukraine, it's not going to Ukraine, at least not ultimately. What is actually happening is it is being sent to Ukraine, where first a huge portion is being skimmed off and laundered into the wallets of corrupt oligarchs over there, and then, as they are contractually obligated to do, they are turning around and spending that money on arms manufactured by the Western deep state. This money is going to the military-industrial complex that gets fat off supplying the world with endless wars, and they rely on these wars for their limitless wealth to keep expanding on and on ad infinitum. This has been the world order for 100 years. It has claimed millions, perhaps even billions of lives since World War I. And now, the bloodlust of the Western Empire has brought us once more to the brink of nuclear conflict. This is not a brave victory. It is a maniacal insanity verging on global suicide pact, and it needs to end. All I can say is that I pray that Trump can tighten his leash and get Ukraine under control in time to salvage some sort of peace, and that Putin will show some amount of restraint, even in the face of this kind of aggression. Something tells me that things are about to get much worse, though, before they get better. Because if you look at all the other stories we've been reporting on about the escalation around the world, and particularly here at home of the surveillance state that now verges on technocratic dystopia, there would be nothing more convenient to the deep state than global war. If you want to undermine Trump's second term, hollow out the populist uprising that put him in power twice, instate a digital surveillance program that will lock your citizens down for good, reset the global currency, and ensure another 100 years of world domination, well, a world war would be the clear answer to all of those problems. Listen, someone did 9/11. And even if we can't agree on who exactly that was, I think that any rational person at this point can admit that certain people in our intelligence agencies seem to have known about it in advance. It's just a shame that that information never made it to the right places in time to prevent it. These people, the people that profit off of endless war around the world, they were a part of that tragedy. Those are the lengths they will go to maintain power and enrich themselves. And I worry that we have something much worse in store for us any day now. And if something does happen, every American's first question should be, is this a false flag? Are we being led across a line from which there is no turning back? And where does this course lead? Because these roads always lead to war, to wealth consolidation in the hands of the rich, paid for by the blood of the poor. Up next, we're going to celebrate Pride Month, baby. But first, I want to talk to you about Tax Network USA.
No.
Tax day may have passed. Still, USA.com/Candace. All right, guys, for our last story of the day, in lighter news, it's Pride Month, everybody. The month where we all get together in the streets in fetish and drag outfits and celebrate sex, specifically gay sex. Right. And I find that often, to get a little perspective on things, it's helpful to reverse the roles and ask yourself if there's anything strange about what you're being told. So here's a video to give us all a little laugh and a bit of perspective on Pride Month.
I'm hetero. As a heterosexual, this is the month that everyone should recognize and celebrate my sexuality, which has always been a fantasy of mine. It's kind of hot. What do I take the most pride in? My values, my accomplishments, my morals, how I treat people. No, I take the most pride in where I stick my penis. Women. I think vaginas are terrific. Yes, I think corporations should do special hetero logos for this month. I mean, it's their job to make me feel sexually validated. And if they don't, I'll take my business elsewhere. Okay? As great as this month is, some people don't like to celebrate. They're like, oh, sexuality is something that should be expressed privately. Well, public displays of sexuality are a real turn on for me, and I need to use other people for that, with or without their consent, because it honors my bravery as a person. Yeah, I just live a few houses down. I have a penis between my legs. This is locked. Sexuality is the last thing that should be private. It's not that hard to celebrate Hetero Pride Month. All you have to do is ask yourself, how can I sexualize everything I do? It's appropriate.
I mean, maybe he's being a little exaggerated, but coming from a very liberal leftist town, if you don't know about how wild it gets, he's not far off. And listen, like I say, I was raised on the left, and personally, I'm of the belief that you should just do whatever makes you happy. As long as you're not hurting or violating anyone else, you're all good with me. But I'm also of the belief that the gay pride movement, which many have seen as just being about accepting gay people for who they are, has been hijacked by something completely different. There is a clear inorganic agenda tacked onto the end of your little acronym there. LGB turned into LGBT, and then into LGBTQ, and then it was LGBTQIA+. Lord knows what it means by now. There's a new flag every month, new banned words and new jargon that you have to use to show that you're inclusive and you're in the club. And really, it's a cult. And now, it's a cult that is pushing insane ideas on children, like that they can just chop off their genitals and take irreversible puberty blockers in order to fix just about any uncomfortable feeling that comes up during puberty. Well, everything took a pretty dark turn there pretty quick. But on a lighter note, I know a guy that's actually started Heterosexual Awesomeness Month up in Idaho. Meet Mark Fitzpatrick, founder of Old State Saloon. He owns this cozy little bar up in Eagle, Idaho, and last year he got to thinking, just like JP, why do we have these giant parades and festivals all over the country for people celebrating and fetishizing gay sex in public spaces, and not a single one celebrating traditional family values? So he started one. And oh boy, did the gays get mad. It went viral all over mainstream media as they decried him evil and hateful and racist and just about every other name you could come up with. And this year, he's doing it again. I'm going to actually try to fly up there later this month to attend and speak at their rally downtown Boise on June 21st, because although the whole idea can easily sound like a meme, we crossed a red line a long time ago, and it's way past time we took a stand. In multiple US states now, teachers and counselors can legally facilitate children getting gender-affirming care behind their parents' backs without telling them.
This is a crazy thing, man, dude. If this would have happened to me, oh my God. God knows what happens after this. Like, imagine you're having a kids in class and it's got, like teachers are doing stuff behind your back, bro. Oh my god. That's
care, which is not gender affirming and is not care, is evil. It is lies. It is a social contagion, much like anorexia. And when you look at the data of referrals to gender care clinics, you can clearly see the.
So guys, at this point, we are clearly not talking anymore about Peter Thiel. So I thought, because JD was a mysterious part in Palantir's plan to control the White House, I thought it was going to be more about Palantir and JD Vance. Well, nevertheless, all of this was pretty interesting with a funny end now. So
pattern. Or you can look at data about the number of people identifying as transgender, like this graph sourced from the CDC, showing the same trend: social contagion. In other words, a disease that is actually a social phenomenon or idea that manifests as some sort of health outcome, like anorexia spreading throughout Hollywood and celebrities in the 2000s, and suddenly every tween girl is starving herself to try to look like Ashley Olsen. Anorexia was an idea. Transgenderism is an idea. But they spread like a contagion, and the consequences are very real. And this contagion is being perpetrated upon the masses through a complex media campaign with vast funding and subversive tactics. Suddenly, Megan Fox has 3 transgender kids. That's not real.
Really?
That is child abuse. I was a teacher. My parents taught teachers for a living. The whole reason why we protect our children from things like drugs and porn and violence is because we know that the minds of children are extremely impressionable. Whatever you teach them is true becomes their truth. And this is the truth that the far left liberal cult is teaching our kids at public schools and universities today. If you don't go along with it, you're a transphobe or a homophobe or some sort of other phobe. No, just stay the hell away from our children. If you're gay, that's all good. Gay people won their battle. They got the right to marry. No one cares at all if you're gay anymore. Just do you. But the moment that gay people got the W, extremists in their camp started pushing for more and more and more, and it's undermining the equality that gay people got in the first place. Love whoever you want to love. But if you want to chop your dick off and pretend to be the opposite sex, don't expect me to pretend with you. As long as you're of age to make such a drastic and, in my view, short-sighted life choice, whatever. I'm not going to stop you. I'm busy. But bro, let's be real. Let's, shall we say, follow the science. You either have XX or XY chromosomes. This dictates your hormonal reality, and it dictates your gender. It dictates everything about your brain, your body, your personality. Taking hormones in childhood is extremely dangerous, even if they're the right ones for your gender. Hence, why we don't encourage young boys to get all juiced up and try to look like Chris Bumstead halfway through puberty. And now, somehow, the left is just telling us it's no big deal to prescribe powerful hormonal cocktails to help turn you into the opposite gender? But you're a racist if you even suggest that maybe the rise in gender dysphoria among young people might just possibly have something to do with all the hormone disrupting chemicals in our food and water and cosmetics. Don't you dare say something that could endanger our corporate profits, you bigot. So, you're racist if you suggest that hormonal imbalances might be causing the problem. But the solution to the problem is to take hormones. Or you could just chop your dick off. So anyways, I'll be flying up to Idaho later this month to celebrate with the homies. And I would invite all of you, also all you gay and lesbian people too, to come and party. Because ultimately, we all have a mom and a dad, even if he's still out at the store getting milk. Because at least for now, babies all come from wombs. And while we're still human, before Peter Thiel puts us all in little tanks of goop plugged into the matrix, that's worth celebrating. That's our show for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to...
So thank you, Ian Carroll. So Ian Carroll's a great guy. I think I forgot to put the sources into the description, but I will do it so you can check out the links below. Yeah, man. So all of those were pretty interesting. Give me 1 second, guys. Just gotta take a look.
A storm is rolling in, be known as by ingredients in his.
So I just want to show you one small clips from this one guy, the CEO Alex Karp, which is pretty crazy. Just like 13 seconds, but dude, this guy, I mean, look at this guy.
decisions when we began talking, annoying each other 10 years ago. Hopefully I'm annoying you as much as 10 years ago, or more. When I made a, you know this, like I made.
Bro. He got the cocaine in.
A lot of decisions when we began talking, annoying each other 10 years ago. Hopefully I'm annoying you as much as 10 years ago, or more. When I made a, you know this, like I made a.
Oh my God. Just had to show you that because, I mean, those guys are basically the like CEO of Palantir, do you know that? It's like what where we are just watching and seeing this guy being basically the CEO of Palantir is crazy. This is crazy. And this is also very interesting. Having Julian Dorey, also great guy, lots of nice talks. We also talked quick about Peter Thiel for like a couple minutes. And to take also with religion now.
But there was also another little under the radar Rothschild related story this week with a certain banker, Francois Pauly, being named the new head of the Vatican Bank. Luxembourg-based executive Francois Pauly has been appointed to lead the Vatican Bank, replacing the long-standing chair of the Institute for Religious Works. Pauly, currently chairman of Compagnie Financière La Luxembourgie, one of the shareholders of insurance group Lalix, is set to become chairman of the IRR's supervisory board following a meeting scheduled on April 28th. This is a guy who used to be a director of the Rothschild Bank, and it's directly showing you that, you know, again, big club, you ain't in it. Little club, you ain't in it. Like these lines find their way to each other. And this perked my attention because there is a great book written by Gerald Posner, I believe called The Vatican, God's Bankers or something like that, about the Vatican Bank. I read that a few years ago. Very eye-opening. You know, you would like to think a religious institution would just be all about religion, obviously. That's never how it works, right?
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me concerned, dude?
No, I just kind of had a tinfoil moment because didn't Peter Thiel do like his big famous talks at the Vatican like a week or two ago?
Right outside, right by where we were standing.
Yeah, and then 2 days ago, the Pope met with exorcists to discuss the problem with like rising Satanism. And then a day later, a Roth. I don't know. I'm just fucking around, guys. I'm just fucking around.
You're just drawing some lines.
Yeah, no, I just think that's weird, though. I just thought about that.
I think that's pretty weird too.
Yeah.
Peter Thiel, like, also, again, I got a lot of problems with the Catholic Church. I got a lot of problems with institutions that, like, I'm going to talk about in a sec, that do horrible things and use the veil of religion of all things as the space to commit the acts they do behind closed doors. But you have gotten me to the point where I'm going to be very much defending the Catholic Church in this particular situation, to see the elephant balls, and I don't mean that as a compliment.
Oh, no.
On someone like Peter Thiel to so purposely, geographically conduct a talk like that. And he did it secretly, but then it leaked, and, you know,
yeah,
that's part of the plan. You know, to do that so close to that place when you are like read the room, Peter.
Yeah.
Read the room. People don't want to go get dinner with you. They're not looking at you like you're this special thing. And I'm talking about all of us here on Main Street. They're not looking at you like you're this special thing that people want the access to and they want to know. At the end of the day, you're someone who can't formulate a sentence without fucking stuttering 40 million times to Sunday. And yeah, you're worth billions of dollars, but you're a part of every fucking semen secret society and connected to the biggest sex trafficker in modern history like Jeffrey Epstein. Far more than you said in the past, to the point that it's like you're just an asshole. Like, that's what it is. So people don't give a fuck what you think about the coming of the Antichrist and stuff like that. The only reason let me correct a little small part of that statement. The only reason we might give a fuck about it, and you will hear me talk about it, and you guys may want to listen to some of that, but let me know in the comments on that, is because you might be the Antichrist. You might be projecting it like, hey, I'm the guy. Hey, you know that fucking Palantir thing? That's my data sucking machine to bring back satanic rice. Like, that could be you. I don't know. But the cojones in a bad way. I wasn't trying to be funny on that.
He's the dude at a house party who like steals something from, and he runs in, he's like, dude, I think someone took something from your mantle. Well, you gotta find that piece of shit.
What do they call it? Like a
kleptomaniac, yeah. But he like gets ahead of it by being the one to like take notice that something was stolen. It's in his car.
Dude, this is so accurate. I'm not lying. This is very accurate. Yeah, again, Shirandori, great guy. Also, I have another one for you. And it's from Al Jazeera, which is interesting. I didn't know that they had such good promotion, or not promotion, but like videos, their social media team. It's pretty good, I think, because this is interesting on how is Palantir connected to Epstein. Quick one, 2 minutes, but let's hop in.
Palantir is the AI firm used by Israel and ICE for surveillance. Its founder, Peter Thiel, appears over 2,200 times in the Epstein files. Here's what we found. Through their often cryptic communications, Thiel and Jeffrey Epstein revealed that they viewed crises as opportunities, flippantly referring to wars abroad. In June 2014, Thiel said that creating a mess in the rest of the world could limit US intervention. Epstein also talked to Thiel about foreign currency devaluation with enthusiasm. Thiel was invited to Epstein's island, and they expressed loyalty to one another, like in this 2015 email where Thiel reassured the convicted sex offender that he was not at all intimidated by bad press. Epstein frequently connected people to Thiel, notably Israeli politician Ehud Barak. In recently leaked audio from 2013, Epstein encouraged Barak, at the time Israel's defense minister, to look into Palantir. Today, Israel is one of Palantir's most lucrative clients. Palantir provides predictive policing technology and artificial intelligence for automated decision-making, according to a 2025 UN report. When asked in 2024 what he thought of the Israeli army using AI to bomb Gaza, here's what Thiel said.
Broadly, the IDF gets to decide what it wants to do, and that they're broadly in the right.
Palantir's biggest profits are from the US Department of Defense, which has committed to spending $2 billion. The Department of Homeland Security has allocated over $300 million to Palantir. By January 2026, ICE had adopted Palantir's tracking tool called Elite, which extracts addresses from healthcare data to locate immigrants, as reported by 404 Media, based on internal ICE documents. Despite the evidence, Palantir claims on its website that it is not a surveillance company. We're obliged to point out that being mentioned in the Epstein files is not evidence of wrongdoing, but from what has been made public, it's clear the convicted sex trafficker had a close relationship with Thiel and took an interest in his business. A business that's still thriving with its contracts with the world's richest and most powerful entities, which critics say pose real dangers to vulnerable people.
Damn. Al Jazeera. They be spitting some truth, bro. Yeah, it's very, very interesting to see that, I gotta say. Yeah. Well made. Gotta get the news from the other side, Not saying that it's all truth, but funny. And here we even have this news that Peter Thiel has relocated to Argentina due to concerns over the direction of the United States' future and is already hosting dinners with local economists about the Antichrist. Thiel will live in Buenos Aires' most exclusive neighborhoods, where he could be offered permanent residence or even citizenship. He may view Argentina as a testing ground for dark enlightenment, which says societies should be governed by corporations. So yeah, man. Those things are crazy. I don't know.
A storm is rolling in over Argentina. The man who wrote the words, "I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible," a billionaire that champions many of the ideals central to the philosophy known as the Dark Enlightenment, which views democracy as a failed experiment.
Silent.
He built a company that tracks, monitors, and targets human beings all over the world. Peter Thiel just bought the most expensive house in Buenos Aires for $12 million. But why has he come to Argentina? And what might this mean for the country's future? So why has Peter Thiel bought the most expensive house in...
Better question is, why is it so damn low quality, bro? We're living in 2026. You come with the 360p shit?
Buenos Aires. Why is he here? The first possible explanation is that he might just like the area. Palermo Chico is the most exclusive neighborhood in Buenos Aires, and Thiel's massive 17,200 square foot home is right here in the middle of it. Now, I'd never usually stand outside of somebody's home and film it, but I didn't feel too bad in this case, given Thiel's affinity for surveillance. He's the co-founder and chairman of the board of Palantir, and has a net worth of $30 billion. For him, buying this home is like someone with a net worth of $100,000 buying a home for just $40. Perhaps he just did it because he could, but given the current political situation here in Argentina, this strikes me as unlikely. The second possible explanation is that Thiel sees Argentina as a fertile ground to sow the seeds of the Dark Enlightenment. He's a prominent financial backer and key figure of this Silicon Valley-born philosophy that argues democracy has failed and that society would be better run as if it were a tech startup, meaning one founder at the top making unilateral decisions with no need to ask voters for permission. Thiel has spent millions and millions funding like-minded politicians in the US. Here in Argentina, Milei is already at the top of government and is currently running the most radical libertarian experiment on earth. The both of them are self-described anarcho-capitalists. Back in his ominous 2009 essay, The Education of a Libertarian, Thiel wrote, "The fate of our world may depend on the effort of a single person who builds or propagates the machinery of freedom that makes the world safe for capitalism." So maybe he sees Milei as a key ingredient in his recipe to save the world. The third and final, fairly simple explanation. There's just huge amounts of money to be made for Thiel and Palantir in Argentina. His flourishing ideological friendship with Milei could open many doors for him in the near future. Palantir has made huge sums of money operating at the heart of US intelligence, which uses its software for population monitoring, tracking migrants, and of course, for war. Argentina recently created a new AI security unit, and Milei also just signed an AI collaboration deal with Israel. Thiel names Palantir after Palantiri, the all-seeing stones from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, which allow users to see events happening in other times and places. As one of the co-founders of PayPal and the first outside investor in Facebook, Thiel has a knack for spotting opportunities early on. So what might this all mean for Argentina? Well, the country is being run by a president who worships the free market. Real estate here is currently about 80% cheaper than New York and London. There's very little tech regulation and a time zone that overlaps with the US East Coast. According to numerous reports, more of Thiel's associates and colleagues might be on the way, as they're looking at properties across the city. So will Buenos Aires become the new hub for Silicon Valley capital? History has shown time and time again that US interests in Latin America are bad news for the people of this region. But Argentina has weathered far worse storms than tech billionaires playing at being supervillains. 30,000 people were murdered or disappeared by the military dictatorship that took power here just 50 years ago. Argentinians have not forgotten what happens when their democracy is threatened, and they will fight tooth and nail to defend it. With his fundamentally anti-democratic beliefs, I don't think Peter Thiel will be a popular new neighbour in Buenos Aires.
Well, I think it depends what it's going to do in the end, right? Because even though he's saying he's not a friend of democracy, I do also have points where I'm saying I feel like democracy is not the best way to live. In a way, if you think about it, it's pretty bad, actually, as I was elaborating before. Just choosing what the majority is choosing and then thinking that's the best thing for every one of us, right? Because so I do feel, and I feel like I do get some kind of idea how Peter Thiel is thinking, in the way of like, why should a way that is, we're living this life, and there are certain groups like Buddhists and stuff trying to overcome death in the end. Who is saying that we cannot use technology to achieve this? Why does it have to be the natural way in terms of like meditating and getting enlightenment from within? And, why, or where is the line? Where is it really saying that it's forbidden to use technology to change us into that thing that we all kind of want, and that at some point you almost feel, maybe you do feel like the chosen one, that it's just this visionary guy, not drawing the line somewhere and just being super, how to say, open to every idea that is out there. Right, to every idea. It is crazy. And I think I have to throw in one more clip before we end the show, because I do feel like this clip is missing. I had it in my last live stream, I think, as well. But man, this one is pure gold, I swear. And it is just so incredibly crazy and scary to see how this guy is talking, what he's saying, and like, he just doesn't care at all about being very honest about like the way he's thinking. Oh my god, I have way too many bookmarks. Give me 1 second, guys. Gotta get it. I gotta get it. Where did I put it though? What's the other one before? Yeah, I think I had it here in the last live stream. No. Be there. Oh no, why is it not there, bro? Oh my god. I'll find it in a second. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. Go.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit in this.
Should the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also would I also would like us to radically solve these problems.
Right.
And so it's always, I don't know,
Dude, why are all these guys like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, are they those, well, they're not super androids because in a way they cannot talk, so if they're androids and robots and whatever, they're pretty bad ones. Why are they like, I would, bro.
That transhumanism is this,
listen,
the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or I don't know, transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross dresses, and a transsexual is someone where you change your, I don't know, penis into a vagina, and we can then debate how well those surgeries work. But we want more transformation than that. The critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's so pathetically little. And
this shows you what he just said is showing you and what kind of like he's in it. I don't even know what to say. Like, he's around in a different real, man. He's living in another frequency. The critique on all of this woke stuff and, you know, it's or transgender stuff. It's not that it's like weird, and unnatural. It's that it's so little. You gotta think big, guys. What are you doing? Don't just switch up your genitals, man. You gotta change everything. What are you even thinking? So pathetically little. You gotta think big. You gotta have a vision, man. Oh my God.
Okay, we want more than cross-dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body. Sure. And then Orthodox Christianity, by the way, the critique Orthodox Christianity has of this is these things don't go far enough. Like that transhumanism is just changing your body, but you also need to transform your soul, and you need to transform your whole self.
Oh my God. So, right, but the other where, wait. I generally agree with what I think is your belief that religion should be a friend to science and ideas of scientific progress. I think any idea of divine providence has to encompass the fact that we have progressed and achieved and done things that would have been unimaginable to our ancestors. But it still also seems like, yeah, the promise of Christianity in the end is you get the perfected body and the perfected soul through God's grace. And the person who tries to do it on their own with a bunch of machines is likely to end up as a dystopian character.
Well, it's... Let's articulate this.
And you can have a heretical form of Christianity, that says something else.
I don't know. I think the word nature does not occur once in the Old Testament. And
that's what I mean. I feel like he's this guy. What is nature? Why isn't this microchip in my brain not nature? I mean, we can build it. We can, it's like here, so there has to be a right for it to exist, basically, which I agree with. But it's like, what is nature? We are saying this is unnatural, but is it?
So, and there is a word in which, a sense in which, the way I understand, the Judeo-Christian inspiration is, it is about.
Oh my God, this is so hard to listen to, that mofo. He's just not able to articulate a sentence at all. It is scary that this guy's so rich and he's like on the drugs. Like, obviously he's not sober, bro. Like, sweaty as fuck.
About transcending nature. It is about overcoming things, and and the closest thing you can say to nature is that people are fallen, and that's the natural thing in a Christian sense, is that you're messed up, and that's true. But there's some ways that with God's help, you are supposed to transcend that and overcome that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what should happen with the help of God. The question is, who's God? Who is the God he's talking about? Is it Lam from Aleister Crowley? Is it the Promethean Sumerian old god? Is it like, is it Enki, the Anunnaki? It's like, dude, there's so many theories of who they're talking about. Man. It was interesting though, like, putting it all together, seeing all the videos and with all the information provided, it kind of gives you some rough idea of who that guy is and what his point of view on humanity is. I feel like especially the last clip now is really telling, and it is crazy to see that this guy is having such a big influence into politics for a long time. And I feel like now people are starting slowly to wake up to this guy, actually, because I mean, he's been in the game for a long time, but nobody really talked about Peter Thiel like 6-7 years ago, right? But now it's changing. Yeah, so, and I also got a great book from German journalists, though. Two guys, they were just writing a book from of Peter Thiel. I just gotta get it, show it to you. It's wait. In case any of you is German and wants to support those guys, great book, man. It's, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I mean, I didn't read it for now, but it's gotta be good. So here you go. So that's the book. Peter Thiel, Palantir, der KI-Gott und das Ende der Menschheit, which basically means Peter Thiel, Palantir, the AI god, and the end of humanity. So yeah, man, in case any of you is German, Tahir Chaudhry and Tariq Hübsch, good guys, good deep dive. So they have a lot of information as well. I wish there would be a video from those guys, because they do have like some interviews with other people, but it's all in German. I wish it would be available in English, but AI's how do you call it? Sometimes I'm missing the English words, man. Translation function is still crappy as fuck, and I don't like the voice, so I don't want to make you suffer and listen to it. But yeah, man, can recommend that book. So yeah, guys, well, you made it. We made it. Interesting ride. Peter Thiel, I feel like we're gonna hear more of this guy in the near future, very near future, because as well here in Germany, as I mentioned before, we do see a lot of political change coming up slowly. Yeah, the polls that are around, you can see AfD is getting more and more popular. So yeah, man, it's a great, interesting time to be alive, and I feel like we got to choose which direction we want to head into and what we're supporting, where we draw the line actually in terms of transhumanism and the new freedom that is supposed to come now in a way. And I do feel like it is coming, because now we had the far left, and we're gonna get some kind of right leadership everywhere almost. And it's gonna come with some kind of freedom that, of course, is still connected to some, you know, rules that you have to play. Under certain circumstances, you will be free only if you do this and that, though, you know. So in the end, nothing is for free. So yeah, man, leave your thoughts in the comments, guys. Tell me what you think of Peter Thiel. Do you know more about this guy? Because I know there's a lot of things that you can dig into, connected especially into all this religious stuff and connected to certain gods and whatever. But yeah, man, let's talk about it. So thank you again, guys, for spending your time with me. And I hope you're gonna have a good Monday, good start into the week, guys. And I'll see you in the next video. So I'd say till then, enjoy your time with your loved ones. I'm out of here, man. So